Yeah, yeah, man, marcusvisionary. Watch on, man. And you don't know the real general.
This is the marcusvisionary podcast, and I'm here with a very important figure in drum and bass. And for me personally, he's filled a really, really unique space, and he dominates that space, and he is so important to our culture. He is our hip hop MC in drum and bass, and incredible host as well, because not a lot of people understand that being a recording artist and being an MC at a party, two completely different skill sets. And this man does it flawlessly. So welcome, T.R.A.C. Thank you for doing this for me.
Thank you for the nice intro, Marcus.
You know that. You know
Big
that.
up, man.
All right. First things first. How you doing?
Fine, man. Life is not without its moments, and I'm glad I didn't have a dull year, as I know the year is about to end out around this taping here. And I have to say, man, you never stop learning about yourself. You never stop just experiencing things, and always try to find the bright side of things before you look in the dark side of things. So, I mean, I can't really complain, honestly, on that level. You know what I mean?
Well, that's one of the things, like, since I've gotten to know you, getting to know you, I really relate to you because, you know, you're a positive person. I don't see you online talking trash. You always post really positive things, and even in person, man, you're just down to earth, and you know what I mean? And I appreciate that.
Big up, brother.
All right, we're going to take things way back to your childhood. And then
here we go.
And then up to present day. A little birdie
Right.
told me that your family heritage is Guyanese. So
This is true. This is true. Bop on us. Yeah, anyway,
exactly.
Yeah,
so we're like family, you know?
right.
Yeah. So my family is from Guyana as well, for everybody that doesn't know. And I want to salute all the Guyanese out there, which is like Bailey, Jumpin' Jack Frost, DJ
Ron, my God, that's right.
Just found out MC Armani.
Armani Rain is of Guyanese descent. We're all over the place.
DJ Flirt.
Guyanese Junglists unite. Who?
DJ Flirt from Cool London. Yeah. I know there's a longer list. You know what I mean? But big shout going up to Christy Burton from Toronto as well. You know, people know her.
Shout to Christy.
So there's a lot of us out there, man. Like, you know, we're not all Jamaican.
They think we are sometimes, though. They still put us in that category. So.
You know that. Big up all the Caribbean, all the West Indian crew. All right. When you were growing up, was there a lot of music in your house?
You know, my parents had, and I can actually say this now, they had crates of all kinds of diverse music. You know, I don't know if you know, back then, of course, your parents, when they bought the albums or bought the singles, they would write their name on it so they know it's theirs, whether it's on the vinyl label or on the actual cover itself. And I spent lots of nights and weekends pretty much just going through records they would have. Records, you know, a lot of soul records, some country, records that I relate to more, and even hip hop. You know, my first real introduction to hip hop was pretty much through my parents. You know what I mean? And, you know, I just, you know, the number one record that grabbed me around had me around the player, it's two records. It was the Sal Soul Christmas record. Shout out to everybody who knows about Sal Soul, you know, that the sexy girl was rocking.
Always the sexy girl in the front. Yeah.
Mini low cut, Santa Sting. And it was a song about I saw mommy kissing Santa Claus that I loved off top. I used to play that record religiously. And and the second record, which is really the first record, is Off the Wall by Michael Jackson, where I sat down and read the lyrics, sung the songs, did it again, played the other side, cried with Michael, which she got out of my life. And like Michael Jackson in so many ways put the vibe of what music was in me. And even then, as you think about it, with a lot of his music moving on as a solo artist, he literally just tried to unify all kinds of genres into his music. And they all had a moment within his arrangements and things. And I didn't know that, of course. We just listening to something that we like and we relate to it for some reason. So,
well, the Off the Wall album is one of my all-time favorites. You know, I was a big fan of the Jackson 5. Like, a lot of their work is incredible.
mm-hmm.
All the funk and disco that they made, and then obviously there's some real gems on Thriller. But after
Mm-hmm.
Thriller, that was the end of Mike for me. You know?
Oh man, I didn't end it that fast. I'm gonna blame Staten Island. Shout out to my cousins Les and Whit. You know, what was the album was bad, the bad album.
The bad album.
We listened to that a whole bunch of times.
There were some tunes on there.
Yeah, I mean, like The Way You Make Me Feel.
I feel like he started to lose touch a little bit with younger people, because when he did Off the Wall, he was just in the pocket with what was happening. He was actually ahead of the curve. Like, that album was dominating clubs, you know, like that was the sound of the underground at that time. You know what I mean? And then, and it, even though it came out and became a big pop record, at the time when it came out, I don't think that it actually burst onto the scene like the way Thriller did. It you know, I think people look back and they're like, wow, that's a massive album now. But you know, he was the sound of the streets at one point, you know, which is
absolutely. And I want to say there's a few albums out there that kind of do the same thing, where this album is so dope that it's not respected, that causes the artist to go, you know what, I'm never taking this loss again. And they create something like the Thriller. And Thriller becomes beyond his own wildest dreams, even with all the fighting going on and people didn't believe in him, wanting to sell how much. And somehow he made it into one of the most grandest albums ever made. So, you know what I mean?
Salute Mike.
Big salute to Mike, R.I.P. brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like that. You know what? That is a big influence for everybody. I'm telling you, man. I remember I used to love PYT. That was my thing. And man. Human Nature. Oh my goodness. But you grew up in Brooklyn. Yes. What part of Brooklyn are you from?
We'll give you the full depth. I was born in Bed-Stuy.
Okay. Do or die.
Bed-Stuy. Moved over to East Flatbush in, about between 4 or 6. Found that I had brothers and sisters from Guyana who were coming over to come live with me.
Okay.
And then ended up in Brownsville, Brooklyn. These places I'm saying were once considered notorious places, but now that I think about it, it was just being said that because Black people live there, but that's just what it is. And
it does have when you say Brownsville, people are like, ooh.
Scares the life out of people.
Yeah.
And it does come with its problems, and it does have a lot of depression. But when you're young, listen, I can tell you that I had a very decent, very decent childhood. And yes, my family was like middle class-ish, if you want to say that. They worked really hard every day for the, West Indian family. I ain't got to explain so much there. And I think most of all, my father wanted to stay cultured. My mother and my father both wanted to be around people that look like them than to be around anything else. So my father became a man of communities. He ran for offices. He was the president of PTA. I couldn't come in late to school anymore, and things of that nature. And my mother she was doing her Manhattan thing, working at hotels and, manager this, manager that shit. And,
so you had had a good upbringing.
I had a very good upbringing amongst 3 other brothers and 1 sister. Absolutely.
Well, salute the fam, man. They did a good job. I'm telling you. Yeah, man. So when what led you to music? As you said, it wasn't like that around the house so much, but there was music there. You dug through the crates, but what was the thing that you said, you know what, this is for me?
The this is for me moment doesn't come until, I would say, between 13, 14 years of age.
Okay, that's still pretty good. Young, you know. What were you doing before that then?
Prior to that, I was listening. I remember when my homeboy, and shouts to Troy, when I lived across the street, came into my space with his box. It was like, yo, you got it. It's talking to my older brother. Pulls out the box. It's the, you had to, cats back then used to hold the thing used to have the decibel at 10, and it was right to the air, and it was cool to have a box in your hand with your gazelles. And you know, that kind of thing. And here's the young me.
Yeah.
You know, this, and if I'm honest, my boy Troy was hip hop as fuck. You know, like,
right.
I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can curse on there, but he was one of those guys that, you know, are pretty much, you know, everybody was rocking the cool stuff, and he was one of them. And he was like, "Yo, you gotta hear this."
And so, as a young person, you were emulating your older brother and this guy who was hip hop.
This guy was hip hop, and my brother was West Indian, but he got along with him. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, there was that little divide between Americans and West Indians for a little bit around it, as Karis put in one of his records. You know, he played pretty much "It's Like That" in Sucker MCs.
Okay.
Listen to it 100 times.
You know, it's funny, that Run DMC album was one of my first. Obviously, before that, because it was like Grandmaster Flash, because I had some neighbors who used to babysit me, and they were really into music. So we were listening to George Clinton and funk and, you know, Parliament and all these things. But Grandmaster Flash started putting out, like, you know, a lot of early hip hop stuff that had the electro in it. But that Run DMC album, when that came out, the It's Like That and Hard Times, it hit different. I was just like, this is the real thing.
This is a whole nother thing. And these guys were like direct. Yeah. They were screaming on the mic, things you weren't hearing from hip hop back then. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Just raw.
You know, so the records that my mom's had hip hop wise was the Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. You know, that's like a party vibe. Everybody sway your hands in the air. And the other one was Good Times.
Funk and disco grooves, right? Funk and disco. Yeah.
And then here comes these dudes, unapologetically, no costumes, no makeup, just looking like the toughest dudes on the block, rocking black tops and fedoras and untied shoes and gazelles and big chains and white t-shirts under those. And these were the coolest dudes you ever saw in your life. Right. It was funny, now that you think about it, I think they were emulating a little bit of the European rock / almost rock stars and made it their own thing. Right. You know, and then they were making songs against people in rock for the fun of it, which was the craziest thing about it. And so Run DMC played an opening to me. My brother one day sat me down with UTFO. Mm-hmm. And this is where my curiosity begins. Mm-hmm. And my sister's name is Roxanne, my dad. So shouts to my sister. And we used to listen to that song a lot. But the part that used to catch me off guard was the EMD verse. Mm. When he just told my name is Larry, and I never could catch it. So we would sit down and he would rewind it time after time so we can catch the words. And I would just hold on like, Yeah. And maybe indirectly, it was showing me rap patterns, different complex rap patterns.
Right. That was pulling you in.
That was pulling me in. So, you know, I don't really start rhyming until we moved to Brownsville. And when we moved to Brownsville, it might even be before 13. It might have been around 12 or 11.
Were you listening to radio at the time? And who were you listening to? Yeah,
I was listening to WBLS and Kiss FM, but I was more of a BLS guy because the soul
Mr. Magic,
Mr. Magic, Marley Marl, those guys were killing it. Pete Rock and Young Pete was in the studio back then, and I did like what Red was doing.
See, I was a Red Alert guy.
Yeah,
I love Red because we would get tapes of Red Alert, and he was pushing BDP so hard, and I loved.
He was pushing. BDP. Not BDP. He was pushing. No, was it? Yeah, it was BDP.
It was BDP, man. Just doubles and just like, you know, just playing the instrumentals and he had all his carts and stuff like that. Man, I love Boogie Down Productions. It has, you know, a special place for me.
Yeah, you know, and it's crazy you say that because I'm thinking about the whole native tongue movement and what it meant. Mm-hmm. And Jungle Brothers was one of the first guys to really set it off, and I love their tracks. But at that time, I was just into what the Juice Crew was doing. Big Daddy Kane was a huge, you know, MC Shan. He doesn't get enough credit. And what they would do, Kool G Rap, even Shantae, like
Kool G does not get the credit as
still most slept on rapper ever, probably.
Yeah, and he's humble. And
then Marley Marl had the nerve to have these guys come on the show and freestyle and rap every other night. You know what I mean? Like, I heard dudes rap for like hours consistently on the radio show or Marley show, and all that is really like, for a kid who stayed in the house and things of that nature. At one point Brownsville did get a little bit too influenced with bad energy. So whenever I got something wrong or did something wrong, like miss a homework or maybe even cut school, and my mother or my father found out, I would get grounded for seasons. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't go out all winter.
They're just trying to keep you safe.
They were trying to keep me safe. If I could go out, don't go past the stoop. Sit on the stoop, and that's it. So they were keeping me out of harm's way 100%. So
out of trouble too. People that, trying to get you to deliver a package for some sneakers or something, like a lot of people fell victim to that. You know what I mean? Because it's hard for a kid when you see all your friends got the nice sneakers and the gazelle glasses. And I remember back when I was in Malvern, people were wearing the matching tracksuits, and my mom wasn't. And they had the letters on them of the breakdance crew. And you know what
brand
I mean?
Was it? Out of curiosity.
You know what? It was Puma and Adidas. 100% dominating at that time.
Okay.
The Fila and all that came later, but Puma and Adidas tracksuit, and then they used to customize it with the the wild style letters on the back, and
on the back,
whatever.
Right, that's
and
right.
You used to see guys roll through, and they just everyone was dripping, and I didn't have. I used to wear it. My mom was buying me like the 4-line Adidas, the fake. I wasn't getting the 3 stripe.
Yeah, you was at the no frill shop. I got you, fam.
I was like coloring that, one stripe in with a what? It was terrible. It was embarrassing. I couldn't even come to New York. They would have just made fun of me forever.
I remember wearing sneakers that looked clean and fresh and brand new, but they were no names.
Yes.
And then they would look good, and then they would get super dirty, and then they would break apart. And I would be like, oh man, I can't go to school with these no more.
So you know what? This is epic actually, because I don't think people understand. So you had WBLS, and then you had Red Alert, and he was over at KISS, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that, did you ever go check out and see what Red was doing, or was it like a no-go zone?
No, I was on both sides of radio-wise, I was on both sides of the ocean. Listen, they played some dope records. At one point, it felt like Marley and Red was in cahoots. Marley would play this record, Kill That Noise, and then you hear South Bronx, South, and then you heard The Bridge Is Over, which got ran to death with a special version with Red Alert's kid talking on it, and then you heard whatever was going on. At one point, it went all. I think that battle between the records went all the way up to about Black Poet. Or Black Poet was like this and Miss Melody or something. And after that, everything just calmed down between them as far as the battle. But they kept that battle going for like every weekend.
You know what? I always remember, like, we had this tape. I used to go over to my friend Scott's house every day before school, and we used to play the Red tape. And Red was what I loved about Red was when he liked a record, like he had the instrumental. So sometimes he would just be like, the horn line. He would just, it's like 15, 20 minutes.
All day.
And just carts. This is the Jungle Brothers. We're down with Red Alert.
All time.
You know what I mean? And then he's cutting it back and forth, and then he gives you a piece of the song. Before you know it, he's back into the instrumental, and he's just talking over it. Man, I'm telling you, and it was a vibe. Like, imagine hearing your favorite records for like 30 minutes, bro. Hype. It's kind of like when Funkmaster Flex is dropping bombs and just creating this hype over a record. It just like it. When I say sometimes these guys could make records big because it's the context of like the way that they're manipulating them, and that really excited me when I was young. All right, so I'm gonna fast forward up a little bit.
Yeah, no problem, because we can do that all day. I swear to God, but yeah.
Yeah. So a little bird told me that you used to work at the famous Def Jam Records, and I want to know how that came about. What age were you, and how long was that for?
So yeah, fast forward into that. I had a friend who actually was really cool with Biggie and wanted me to like get down with those dudes, but we was young boys at the time, and I used to just rap around the neighborhood with homies. I think everybody just always respected my pen game just on that. But we used to go I used to go to this thing after school called Greenwich Village Youth Council, And we were going there because it was in Manhattan, number one, and I was already in Manhattan because my school was in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And number two, we were going there to play basketball and just, we weren't really there for anything else. So we walk in there, we run into all the counselors, and along comes this fella, God bless the dead, my boy, Gibi Jajani. Gibi Jajani was instrumental to me in a lot of interest ways. My homeboy put me on the spot and says, yo, he rap. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, I was suffering from bad cases of sinus back then. Like, you rap? I was like, yeah, yo, give him your tape, bro. Give him your tape. And I was like, and I gave him my tape, and I didn't want to rap in front of him. Says, yo, just check it out. And he listened to it. He went home and listened to it. This is a great story as I think about it.
Were you rapping over other instrumentals?
I was working on demos at the time.
Okay.
No, I had, and shouts to my boy Austin Black and everybody from the hood. We were all doing our own thing. We were trying to be
producing your own beats and so on.
Well, yeah, like I would help with some tracks, and he was just a dope producer who would just know how to make it all mesh together real well. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So he helped us with some demos. We was thinking that someone was going to grab, cats is just trying to figure it out because you see all this shit going on. And I gave him my tape. And if I'm honest with you, he sat down with two people. Oh my God. Dante Ross and the other part of whose name I can't remember, and I hate that because I never really got a chance to meet him. DB was part of the infamous SD50s, Stimulated Dummies, who did records like Pop Goes the Weasel, the whole Brand Nubian album. Okay. They have a great discography. I didn't know this guy's at the youth council, and he listened to it, and they listened to it, and to be honest, it was like he's cool, but not really, right? Right?
You weren't there yet.
Yeah, it was like, but I ain't gonna front it. Like it was mad vulgarity, wild, but I think they saw little bits in there, and so I came back and G said to me, yo, so yeah, man, I let my homies hear it. And it's like, they're not really for it. So, just want to say that's what's up. But however, I have something for you. I look at you as a young kid and I see a lot of potential in you. Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about working in the industry? And I said, oh, yeah, of course. He says, well, I have two options for you. One is Def Jam. The other one is Tommy Boy. How do you fit? I just said Def Jam. I didn't even give him a chance to see nothing.
Yeah, because for those that don't know, it's like LL Cool J, Run DMC. You name it,
names, man.
You name it, right? They were like the biggest hip hop label. Yeah.
Third Base, of course. Nice and Smooth was on there for a minute, and then you got all the next grade of people, your Jay-Z's and your Ja Rules and DMX's and everything. And bro, it was the most surreal moment ever experienced to start trying to get into a facet where you can live the way you want to live and try to achieve and make ways through it. I was not going to.
Were you part of the street team? What was your?
I was part of this. Yeah, when I first came in, I was just an intern. I worked inside mostly with one of the head product ladies. So I was in charge of all the stuff that came in. We had to pack it up, put it in a corner. I'm getting, at the same time, I'm going home with Warren G t-shirts, Onyx, Eric Sermon and I'm like, all this amazing stuff, bro. I'm like, dude, I'm a kid in Disney World, like off top. I'm blown away at the level of where I'm at. I'm going to all the events, meeting people, seeing dudes behind the scenes, big artists. What?
That was going to be my question. Who were you getting an opportunity to see and mingle with and I think when we were talking the other day, you mentioned that one time you actually got to go on a little tour or something like that, right? Somebody went on tour. Tell us a little bit about that.
So there was the show tour. I'm sure some of you guys might be familiar with the show. There was a documentary. So we're talking about Biggie in his prime, talking about Onyx, a super hot Onyx, a Tribe Called Quest coming, you know, it was just like Method Red was like, you couldn't even stop Method Red at one point. They were like the greatest act and just like had the energy for everything. And I got to go on like at least 3 or 4 dates with those guys. I saw the ins, the outs, I saw the riots, I saw the women, I saw some wild stuff behind the scenes. And, you know, it was, I would call that experience without knowing it's experience.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, we're not there to play around. We're there to help out and help set shit up and get the staging and get the promotion popping before they in town, hit the colleges, hit the radio, sometimes you got to go with the artist to the radio, and all this is going on. And I'm just like an intern, assistant, and we just, you know, the cars, you know, we drove down in our own thing, and the car's filled with flyers and all kinds of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And we was out here just like, yo, we got to do this. And like the experience of that was like, yo, so not only do I get to see the artists just come to the label and blah, 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 I get to see these dudes in action from backstage and watch the rip parties apart. I got so much memorable moments from Howard University down to Atlanta. You know what I mean? And it's something that's it's a piece of it's a piece of a golden touch of me, I'd say, man. Like it's, you know, it's
what
really.
What do you think you learned the most from that whole experience working with Def Jam? And what do you think you took away from that the most?
Def Jam was my college to say. I mean, I did go to college. I didn't finish college, but I did go to college. But because of where I was at, I learned structure, I learned organization, I learned how to artist develop a little bit myself, I guess.
Yeah.
And how operations really run. Like how have your things moving, you know, this is like invaluable things. You know what I mean? Like I can sit here and tell you that I was part of a lot of platinum records of my time. And like I can take some credit for that. I may not have the plaque, and maybe I could, but whatever. But I was like, when it was time for Jay to do some stuff, we had to take the records to Hot 97. Yo, it's the new J record. You know, DMX coming with it. Yo, we got the X. Yo, somebody go hook up. Boom, boom, boom. At one point, like I can sit here and tell you that at one point I could have walked into any club and I didn't even tell them who I was, because I was always the dude around and all. Oh, this is homeboy from Def Jam. Yeah, get him a bottle or whatever have you. And then after interning pretty much real quick, I ended up becoming the assistant director of college and crossover radio. So now I'm running all the colleges that are down. There's a college rep program they were running. And I'm taking records over to all the majors. I got to talk to people on the phone, make sure they're on. I got to, make sure you follow this. I'm growing in relationships. And it was all bewildering because I was learning along the way. I didn't come in being a smart guy. Like I was smart for what it was, using my own common sense, because it's where I wanted to be. So if you know what I mean, it's a dream.
So when did you decide that you wanted to get into music on a professional level?
It's been a childhood dream. I'm a Pisces, so I'm probably the most optimistic and maybe even a bit delusional in the sense of what I foresee myself doing. And because I was caught up in this world of music, all I could really dream about was being part of it and living it and wanting to be in it forever and ever, that kind of situation. It's been a childhood dream. But then when I got, we talked about Def Jam, when we got into it and I saw how things work I worked at another corporate place and I watched this. I enjoyed the corporate place, but I really love this. And the same sort of structures that I was seeing that I said, oh, so this can actually work. This is not a game. You know what I mean? This exists. I'm in it right now. And, and again, RIP to my boy, Gibi, keep your head down, fam. Learn everything possible. Never say no for now. You know what I'm saying? And make sure you come out of there with a lot of jewels and things. You know what I'm saying? And pretty much that's what it was, along with a lot of connections and friends and stuff like that. So yeah.
So we got a little bit of your hip hop history. Now, how did you hear jungle and drum and bass coming from Brooklyn? How and when did that happen? And how did you? I mean, obviously you liked it, but tell me about that experience.
So, all right, yeah. So, Def Jam is the reason I know about jungle drum and bass.
Wow.
In an indirect way. Okay. Like I said, I used to hook up the mixtape artists, all the radio guys. I ran into a very legendary mixtape artist around the mixtape era by the name of DJ Showtime, who still remains to be my homie, really good big bro and stuff like that. And I used to always hang out with Show everywhere and all these things. And one time he decided, in the midst of all the networking and relating, he was like, T, why don't you come with me to the studio one day? I was like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? And I went there with, at the time, his girlfriend at the time, and we waited outside the studio, which is in Spanish Harlem. We were there, get a phone call. This guy's in another session somewhere else. It won't be back for a little bit. So we're like, all right, let's just hang around. It must have been like hours. It must have been like at least 2 hours. I'm in the car like, yo, dog, if you ain't here, we got to leave, fam. We ain't got, T.R.A.C, chill, please. Up the street, along the road, comes this Puerto Rican fella with glasses and a whole big bag of crates. He looks stressed out, goes by the name of DJ IQ, New York's own as well. We go up into his place. We sit down, we vibe out the tracks and beats. And at the time, I'm just, watching the magic. I'm not even there to be an artist. I'm just there to watch this girl sing and do her thing. And something happened along the lines where I believe Show couldn't make it to the next session later on. Little small segue, my uncle got married upstate. And on the way back, I was with my brother driving back to the city to go home, and we were flipping through the channels, and we went all the way to the far side of the FM channels. Like I forgot what channel it was exactly, but all we heard was Lord of mercy, Lord of mercy. I was like, yo, what the hell is this, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, you don't know what this, my brother's putting me on, right? Like, yo, you don't know what this is? It's that new thing out of London right now. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, yo, this is, check it out. Tell me what you think. We had it on for a couple minutes. I was like, yo, change the channel, fam. Change the channel, please. So fast forward.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Right. So fast forward, here we are now. I'm back in Spanish Harlem by Q's place. And he goes, yo, have you heard of this thing called jungle drum and bass? Huh? Then he throws on a record. I forgot what record it is. And I was like, oh, yo, I just heard that shit like a couple days ago on the radio and stuff like that. He was like, yeah, this and that and the third. We going through the talks and, because I was originally there to be like, yo, maybe I can cut a demo with you or something. And Q decided to give me a history lesson somewhere in the late 90s about drum and bass. Went through all the breaks, the Kraftwerk breaks, the Bambaataa breaks, just showing me the inner workings. And I ain't even gonna lie to you, in the midst of it, I fell asleep. Like, I had enough. But the thing that I always promised him is that, yo, you're doing me this favor to do some beats and some demos. I'll jump on one of your drum and bass jungle records, because at the time he always had this knack for hip hop and drum and bass as well at the time. And yeah, we could mess around. So Q was pretty much the beginning of it all. And the first record I ever created is the first time me applying hip hop to drum and bass, which is next level shit. That's on Liquid Sky. That opened up my artist world right away. It opened it up. We were going on the road. We had invites to Brazil. I was singing, people were everywhere getting into the record on a label that was pretty much on its way out at the time because they were going through a lot of inside trouble.
So for those that don't know, Liquid Sky was one of the main New York record labels, right? Who used to run Liquid Sky?
Soul Slinger used to run Liquid Sky. He
DJ
was
Soul Slinger.
the man for that. You know, they were a clothing store and they were also a record store, and they were, and they also made records. And they had like Wally Pish Posh, they had Jordana, they had man, there was a lot of names you can go through there, you know what I'm saying? And it was like
oh,
Bluetooth problem.
All right, you're back.
Sorry about that. But yeah, you know, you had Breakbeat Science, you had you had all these other spots in between, and it was like this inner city, unseen, untapped culture that was popping off, because at the time hip hop joints was getting shot up, and it was too rough for a lot of people, and it was just like not really bringing in a good aura around. So a lot of those kids went into the raves, these outlaw parties in broken down warehouses, under bridges, in parks, and within the same essence of like what the original hip hop situation was. They hooking up to street lights, they hooking it up to illegal sources, and they fucking, I'm serious. Like, shout out to the confusion. Cats was climbing bridges to bring electricity to happen. And I ain't talking safe bridges. I'm talking high under the, like, yo, what you doing up there kind of thing. And they became some really, really memorable moments. And it became these boom moments for the scene of rave. That's why I always say Kool Herc through the first rave, but, it's a joke more in that sense. And Liquid Sky remained to be the label for underground electronic, jungleistic vibes, jungle, So Cats, everybody loved them, and even to now, people show a lot of respect for Carlos. Shouts to Carlos as well, what he's done for a lot of people, especially me. My first record ever was Next Level Shit with IQ as a feature, and those guys believed in the record so much because we didn't even know what we was doing. We stayed up to like 8 o'clock in the morning. I was at his house from 9 earlier. Stayed up the whole night. And at the end of the record, we both looking at the sky like, yo, what did we just do, bro? What is this? I don't know. I'm like, yo, I gotta go home and sleep. He's like, yo, I'm going to the label. Went straight to the label and said, yo, Slinger, you got to put this on the next and the last compilation.
Nice.
You gotta do it.
So that was your first record?
My first record on vinyl, my first record ever produced, and all, like, it was surreal to me because even though it was something I wasn't necessarily fully in, I was blown away that I had my own record. I was blown away that people love the record. I'm going into places and it's all weird for me in the beginning because I'm like, this guy's got a long air fucking ring. This guy's wearing big parachute pants.
Everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome.
And as you say that, I got the baseball cap on. There's cats with baseball caps. And they looking at you like you're looking at them, and you're like, these guys got to be hip hop dudes too and shit,
So after this, you start to immerse yourself in jungle and drum and bass culture. How did you make the UK connection?
That took some time, man.
I met you at Lion Dub, didn't I? A long time ago. And actually, I think
Lion Dub event. It might have been an event where Lion Dub was at, and you were performing. And I think it was one of your first times and in New York, I believe, at the time. I remember Lion Dub, he was chopping you up real big about when he was coming through. So he was really excited for you to come through. I don't remember what the event is, though. I just remember that you were like,
and you know what? And I did meet you here too. And like, I'm referring to is like, I guess before your success, like you're like, because now, like, to me, you're like larger than life track. You know what I mean? Like you are like, I was saying this to you. You hold a really special place in our DNB scene, right? And I think in the world DNB scene, and I think even in the UK, you're our hip hop MC. You know what I mean? And there's you and there's Armani that represent that style in that way, and I mean, and on top of it, you put that work in, but your discography is deep. People, please go check out T.R.A.C. discography. it's heavy. So now, like, I'm trying to get right into your recording. So I think you did something with Reinforced as well, right? With Mark Mack?
Yeah, so that's pretty much where I would say maybe some of the light starts. So after Next Level shit happens, we are concentrating on hip hop stuff. We're also thinking about, it was this coin term in New York called hip hop influence production.
TC Islam, right? R.I.P.
Yeah. TC and R.I.P. to TC. And we were all sort of part of that. But eventually for me, I just, not to separate myself, it just wasn't where I wanted to go as far as what that whole movement was. So I had a lot of time to myself. And in irony, and this is where we can talk, I came up to Toronto. I'm in Toronto playing on AIM, and my homeboy Odie, shouts to DJ Odie, sends me an instrumental tape of covers. It was covers of dope hip hop instrumentals done by Visionaries. This is track, you gotta check this out. I'm listening, I'm like, this is who did this? Googling up or whatever it was at the time, search engine. And then I run into a fella named Mark Mack. Don't laugh at me, because I'm not thinking it's who I think it is. Back at the time, there was like Mad Max. So I was like, this guy's got to be from Cleveland or something. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't even look at the bio or nothing on MySpace. And I'm like, yo, I like what the hell you doing here, yo. This is really fire. I wouldn't mind messing around with 1 or 2 of these tracks.
Yeah.
But after a while, I saw he had something about, he does like jungle breaks. I was like, yo, you mess with jungle breaks? Yo, we should definitely talk. Yeah, let's have the conversation. And then I'm finding out that this dude doesn't live in Idaho or Cleveland, or he's from London. And then I saw the LaFleur record. And then I saw some other barely breaking even records, and then Reinforced popped up, and then Tommy Jerry, and then Kurt's Nightmare. I was like, yo, wait a minute. This is crazy.
For me, Mark Mack is the man. He's in my top 3 biggest influences and favorite producers. Like, the way he hears music, I relate to it big time,
One of the greatest is, man. And so it's not that Mark led me to jungle, because Mark was already, he's transcending into all kinds of new
hip hop, broken beat.
Yeah, new jazz.
Everything.
He's just very eclectic with, you can't put a finger on Mark personally, you know what I mean? But you can remember where he was and what it meant in those places. And but it also awakened the feeling of drum and bass. I also worked with Lewis Parker, who was a hip hop dude. He used a lot of classical samples in his tracks and everything, and scores. And I happened, because of Mark, to go on my first real trip abroad with the Network album that we dropped on BDE. It was getting super play in Europe. And one of my homies was like, dude, I turn on the radio and you're getting play like every day out here. I was like, what? So I'm not even playing, fam. You're getting play out here like crazy. So we came up with a plan for me to pretty much go abroad finally, and I'm hearing it. And I ran into a fellow named Paul S.G. At the time, I didn't really know Paul, but it was like on a whim situation from another friend. Like, yo, this is a cat named Paul. He's mad cool, mad generous. You have to link up with him. Go to Paul. We link up finally. He lives in Vienna, of jazz station. Paul, one of the most nicest people in life I've met, to be honest. One of the most realist, speaks his mind, and I didn't expect to sort of connect in a brotherly way with Paul, but he's a great listener, and he's a very emotional and passionate felt. Like he's a really good guy, man. I can only speak highly about Paul. We were working on a record just because we were chilling, and we had like a little sub where I just shot a couple of loose rhymes, and damn, time's flying. We had a couple of loose rhymes, and I shot these lyrics to him. Nothing really came out of it, right? And then I did something else for him back when I got home. It was just like sitting around, and then one day I had him up like, yo, have you tried those lyrics to see what happens? He played me a joint that sounded like some Michael Jackson-esque kind of feeling to it. And it had this girl singing on it by the name of La Medusa. And I was like, yo, what is this? This is fire. So that song turned into Let Me Show You. You know, there's extra verses that people haven't heard and everything on there.
What label did that come out on?
It came out on Liquid V.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Also, there was another record made at that time that became the title of Paula G's first album, which is called This Is Me. That record was originally on, believe it or not, Good Looking. And
so you're stepping into the scene in the biggest way right now, because Liquid V is arguably one of the best liquid labels, and now and Good Looking was the dominant for kind of pre-liquid intelligent drum and bass sounds. So I mean, you're stepping in heavy.
Yeah, they mean the world to me as far as that soulful, jazzy, atmospheric feeling. And I fit in those spaces because that's where my mind is. I'm a Tribe Called Quest fan. I love really soulful grooves, and you know what I mean. And I fit in on those levels. So, you know, the whole irony is that how Brian heard that record, and he kind of was like, I need to do more with him. Where is this guy? We end up doing another record, and
you're like the missing element. And Frost and Brian love hip hop. They're hip hop,
So hey, listen, man, V is like the Motown of drum and bass.
Yeah,
you really get down to it. They are the guys who they have dropped definitive, soulful, classic records, timeless records that all mean something to people. You know what I mean? And you always got to respect that overall.
Yeah, I think they kept, that was the thing they were known for. Like, even when went through the tech step period and everything went dark, it was like, for me personally, it was V, Philly Blunt, Liquid V, all these Chronic that got me through that dark period, because they were like still making jungle, still making soulful drum and bass, and liquid. And if it wasn't for them, I don't know if I would have stayed in the music, because I wasn't relating to a lot of the neuro and tech stuff that was happening. You know what I mean? So there's only a handful of labels, and V. So big up Brian and Frost, because you guys really did that for a lot of people. And a lot of people I've spoken to said they only stayed in the music during those transitions. You know what I mean? And Brian really, carried the flag right there with Fabio for Liquid Funk. You know what I mean? And then now we have Sun and Bass and all these wonderful things because of their contribution, and their steadfastness to having soulful drum and bass.
Yep.
You know?
And and for those openings, even with Bookham may have not necessarily published the record, but Bookham took it on his own to have me on stage with him to see how I'm going to handle crowds and rock shows. And the thing with Danny, of course, is you're not just doing a show with him. You're doing something really top-notch and professional, which opened up a whole blossom of extra doors of this guy's really good and we should have him around more and that kind of. So I'm super grateful.
That's where I have to give you more props now, because, as I said, there's a lot of performing artists who are great in the studio, but you put them on a stage on any kind of drum and bass. And I say this because you can perform with the heavy drum and bass, you can perform with the liquid, you can perform with jungle, and you just know how to fit in. And you definitely, when to make it about you, and then you also know how to just host a set. And a lot of people don't have that humility, you know what I mean? And because I went all the way up to Kitchener to see you and Brian G, and I watched you host, and I watched you host, and I was like, this guy's he's V Camp.
That's like 3 or 4 hours, I think we did that night or something, right?
Because you just held it down. You know how to pace it. You know how to come in at the right moments. You know what I mean? Like some people, a lot of MCs will only spit on the beat, but we need you in the breakdown. You know what I mean? We need you to kind of hype the crowd up and keep people interested and bring people in during the breakdown. A lot of people don't talk during the breakdown. It's that's why I love G Cube GQ was always one of my favorites, because he used to create atmosphere when the breakdown would happen. He used to say just from the front to the back, and big up the MC and really draw you in, and when those pads are hitting, and then it wasn't just about when the bass, the beats were hitting. And I give you a lot of kudos for being a great host.
Yeah, man. I want to add to GQ, my most favorite classic night with GQ, believe it or not, is here in the Governor. And I want to give shouts to Caddy as well, who brought me in on the behind the scenes and stuff.
Big up Caddy.
And we're watching Andy C and GQ rip I mean, rip down what felt like the biggest place in the world in Toronto, as far as I'm concerned. And yes, I'm good, but I'm watching it at a top tier level. Like undoubtedly one of the best shows I've seen in drum and bass was Andy and GQ out in Toronto. And I've always went up to GQ to give him his props about that. Like, you don't know what that day meant to him. I'm behind the scenes and they kicking everybody off. And I'm gonna be honest, security cleared it up and he got to me and I just like I froze up. Because I was like, I didn't know anybody back there. I met Matt and Ed. Matt and Ed was there that night. And I was like, but if you move me, I'm going to get lost. He was like, all right, just stay there. And I got to sit there and watch the whole show from beginning to end.
Was this was this at the government nightclub complex?
Yeah, that was the governor. Yeah, the government.
Yeah.
I said governor.
So that was a theory party. Okay.
Yeah.
That was one of my shows. Yo, with Jose. Big up Jose.
Big up Jose, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, little did you know that I was in there with the textbook and the notebook, just taking notes.
You know what? We used to say GQ was like, he was like the epitome of a great host, you know. And one time, because he used to come to Toronto so regular, and he was just like, I get paid to not speak.
Yep.
That was one of the things he said, and I thought that was a great thing because he has a respect for the music that I think a lot of MCs and hosts. Some guys are like there to do a live PA. I mean, and I'm not knocking the lyrical style because it's two different avenues now. You know, I mean, you have even in the scene, like there's a split. There's like your host MCs, right? Who you'll tend to find them at like your Sun and Basses, and you know, they'll be performing with the liquid artists and the people who let the music breathe, and you know, they'll perform at Metalheads nights, and even Rupture's got host MCs. And then you've got your lyrical MC. So there is a complete split in the scene. And I think there's a place for both. And I know you host at Sun and Bass. You've done some PAs there too, right?
Yeah, I've done breakout moments. I have to give it up to the staff and the crew behind the scenes of drum and bass, the Fanos, the Setchis, like A-side. Oh my God, A-sides. And I have to say that there were transformative moments that I've never experienced before that I can only tell you that I didn't know that I was also inspiring other people because I had the Command Strange record out. I had Higher Ground, which was like this phenomenal record. Intellects was super happy to talk about that record. RIP. And all these things, because I'm going there thinking I got to go prove, just like with the Bookham Nights. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that these people already know that I'm coming with something special. I just didn't know. Mm-hmm. So now I'm doing a show. I shared this with Deggs a while ago that I'm doing a show. My voice is gone. Paul's with me. I hold my voice. I was screaming all week and I finally lost it. It didn't come back. I'm going and waited till the last second, didn't go out, stayed, kept quiet, said nothing to nobody for a while. Day of the show, we got to do sound check, testing the voice. I'm speeding the story up and pretty much saying, yo, I'm pretty much about to fail. You know what I'm saying?
Well, because the voice was just tired.
It was destroyed. And I was over screaming because it was like drum and bass heaven, Sun and Bass. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And
because you were working all week, probably, right?
I did like one. I did an amazing set with Brian G. You can find on SoundCloud. That was like I consider that my God set for years. I was floating on air. I got tackled to the floor.
We got to put that in the comments when we put this up for sure.
Yeah. And
all right, you know what? I'm fascinated with Sun and Bass. A few years ago, I went there. A friend of mine had a villa and said, you know, you and your girl could come up, and I got a room here for you. And I was going to play at Outlook Festival in Croatia, and it landed. It was around the time where it landed at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so made my way to Sardinia, had 3 days there. And I spent 3 days on the beach watching, you know, the stage on the beach and being in the water and just taking in the vibes. And then going out at night and have it, you know, in that nice little town and with all the lighting, it's so romantic, and eating the best Italian food. Mm-hmm. And I came back thinking, this is one of the best vacation festivals, and it's for adults, and you can bring a family, which is great. because at nighttime I didn't have the energy to even go clubbing. Everyone went clubbing in the house, and I was like, you know what? I heard music for 8 hours today because I was at the beach from 12 to 8 every day, you know? And I was like, I had enough music. I'm sunburnt. I got my belly's full, you know? So tell me about your experience with Sun and Bass, how many times you've been there, and how that all came together.
Sun and Bass was a marker of get abroad and make things happen, because previous years I was pretty much on some like manifesting, yo, I need to go to Sun and Bass, manifesting. Life emotion drop, things got a little bit easier because of it. And I can't remember the specific reason, but I think I was going to team up with Paul and do a nice little run around. And Sun and Bass became an option because of A-sides. And A-sides, I was like, yeah, I really want to try to get on there. And A made some things happen. You know what I mean? The invaluableness of that year for me, of course, is seeing drum and bass at its full tilt, like the full machinery, how it really looks compared to what we go through here. Well, as a state, I can't speak. Toronto's got a scene, fam. You know what I mean? So
what year was this? The first Sun and Bass?
This
Do you remember?
was about 2015, I believe, or 2020. If it wasn't 2015, it was 2016. But it was a really good moment. Maybe it was just before Life Emotion Drop, yeah.
And did you go back every year after that?
I went the following year, and in 1 year I ended up with a pretty bad fall and missed that year because I tore my meniscus and had to heal up. I wasn't, I had to do all that stuff. So I missed that year, and then COVID happened, and then, I went back pretty much this year for the first time in ages. And
I was reading your updates and how magical it was, and trust me, the FOMO hit me hard. I was like, how did you not plan for this? Like, but I mean, it definitely financially wasn't in the cards for me with the whole pandemic and stuff like that. And it turns out I think I was in the States, so I couldn't even go.
Make the move. This year's Sun and Bass was, I was going to say it was my most magical experience of all experiences. Well, it's up there with the first one, but this one here carried a little bit more of a different, like I did alternative with Marky, and it became one of the most special sets I've ever done, ever. You know what I mean? It's captured, even with A-sides that same day, and I did a live set that same day. I was pretty much the owner of that part of the Amber Day for the whole day, hosting for no reason. Benny L was rocking with Benny L that day. So you can imagine, voice hoarse, legs cramping up. I'm not leaving that stage, fam. I'm not. And the music is it was mine, and soulful, just things that I remember, the music I grew up with, the influences, as Marky was explaining through the whole set, all these influences that I was like, this is where I belong. I didn't want to do nothing else. I didn't want to go hang out at Amber Night. I went straight to bed and just slept for like a good 10 hours or more, because it was like, that was a magical moment this year. So yeah, big up to Sun and Bass and everything they do, man. I don't know too many festivals where even if you just say you don't like the music, that you still would have fun at. And they are one of those guys who make sure you understand what it's about up there. So big salute to those guys, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've seen that they've made an effort to bring in and expand the amount of styles. Like they've been having more jungle there. They've been having like, Sambinga. I saw quite a few people like a little bit outside of their lane in their second room and stuff at night. And even the year that I went, there was some heavy, it was a combination of liquid and rave oriented jungle drum and bass being played on the stage. So it's cool. But I mean, definitely what they do for liquid is amazing, and you fit right in. It's a natural fit. So let's taking this back to Brian G. Let's talk about you and V Recordings and Brian G, your relationship with them, and also to what producers you work with from the camp and so on.
Oh, I may have ran through the whole camp as far as producers, because most of the VR, I don't think there's too many cats I haven't worked with on V off top. But most of the Brazilian cats, those guys, we were best friends. We were looking out for each. We continue to be best friends. Elside is a homie. You know what I mean? Killer Transmissions meant the world to him and to me. I didn't even realize it when I'm meeting a chap from Alibi for the first time. And he's like, yo, dude, I just want to thank you because you looked out for my boy L side. Killer Transmissions is like the hottest record in Brazil. It's like, what? Like, it is? And he's like, he got on the set and he just started playing with the main bass phrase. I was like, okay, let's go, you know, and everything that meant. So like V was just home. Brian G had to be one of my most favorite bosses in life. You know what I mean? Very, not too many cats in the music industry will tell you how much they love your music and sing the words and the songs and dance with you a little bit as just, you know, that creation of what you, I don't know too many that do that right there. So
Brian G is a music man unlike anyone I think I've ever met. I don't think I've seen the way he loves the music and the way that he loves to DJ, his passion for it, and the way that, you know, bad things will be happening. I remember going through the George Floyd thing and all these, you know, COVID, and Brian's just like, I'm at this radio station. I'm at this radio station. And he just kept going with the music and the positivity. And that's something that I really respect about him. Like, he just keeps going always. And he's always focused. And I also got to big up Brian because, you know what, anytime I hit him up and say, Brian, I'm going on tour, I need some dubs, he loads me up. So salute to Brian G, that Brian Dubplate G and Frost. Got a long history coming to Toronto and slaying it. And, and these guys, they mean the world to me. So all the Brazil guys, have you been to Brazil?
Not yet. And
I want to go as well, man. I want to go to Brazil. I cannot wait to go to Brazil.
Let's talk after the show, man. Anyway,
you know what's funny? I have to go to Guyana, and I kind of feel like,
oh wow,
if I'm going, because I've never been to Guyana, if you can believe it. My parents are going back because they're getting a little bit older, and I was like, you know what, I need to go and experience to see where they were, you know, where they grew up,
family's from,
where they were born.
Where in Guyana they're from?
Georgetown.
I mean, what town in Georgetown? I'm sorry.
I don't know the streets and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I want to go meet my cousin because my cousin is Paul Stone Love from Stone Love, Guyana.
Wow.
So, you know what I mean? I want to go out there and meet him. He was Stone Love, Guyana. It was a big sound. And
big sound. Yeah, man. Yeah. Years.
Yeah.
What?
So that's my, see, it's in the blood. So I told him, I said, when I come out, I got to interview you. You know what I mean? And that's my second cousin. It's my dad's first cousin.
Ah, bless, man.
Yeah.
Bless. That's crazy, bro. Yeah. My family grew up in a town called Isla Penitence. So I think there used to be a very loved prime minister by the name of Berbice. He didn't live too far. He lived in the area or lived in the town, something like that. I personally have only been to Guyana once. I was 4 years old, real quick. And all I remember from that is opening the door, seeing insects and mud, and running back in the house. And that's it.
You know what? I'm going to go with all the bug spray, man. I'm going to go with all the mosquito spray. I'm going to sleep under the mosquito net and everything. I'm going to be prepared, but I'm going to come back so much heavier because I'm going to eat all the fried rice and all the, you know, the Guyanese Chinese food.
Nobody don't know about that. They don't know about that. We're giving away secrets right now, bro.
You know what I'm saying? You know, that's a cuisine in itself. Yeah. So, you know what? Let's talk about a few of the other producers from the UK that you've been working with recently. Okay. I know you and Makoto have a relationship.
Yeah, big up to that dude.
Yeah. You know what? You tell it because you know what? You're prolific, man, and you're so busy. So tell everybody who you've been working with and who you have worked with.
Man, I may have worked with pretty much a great A list of amazing. I mean, come on, I was lucky enough to work with Caliber, and that.
You're not sure? Pull it up again. Pull it up again. Pull it up again. Pull it up again. Pull it up again.
That's okay. I'll be my edit right there. So Caliber, working with Caliber. What was this experience like?
The story of Blue actually comes through Brian, as Brian says, yo, Caliber's down to be part of the album. And I was like, dope. He's like, yeah, so send him the vocals. And I go, what do you mean send him the vocals? He's like, yo, he wants to take something. And I was like, but I don't have the vocals just laying around. You know, I usually try to work with the record. And I was like, well, I'll do you a favor and I'll try to get the vocals done by today. And then Brian gave me the urgency of like, You better do it. You better get on it now because I don't know how open this window will stay.
Mm-hmm.
Whoosh, whoosh, running all the way back home, calling up Q at the time who helped me record a lot of Life in Motion. And I was like, yo, Caliber wants to work. I got to come through now. Yo, make it. Go up there. We don't know what the hell we thinking about. And I just came up with the idea of being like, yo, let's listen to some Caliber records. And maybe I'll take one of his records and turn it into a song. And that's how Blue came about, long short. You know what I mean? He took the beat that we took. I can't remember what it is off the top. Thoughtless. And he took that and made it something bigger. It's like I saw him this year and I said, yo, you know, that record is like my Superman record, Blue. And that was super thoughtful. I'd love to work with him again, of course. So let's see what happens, you know. And
that's dream levels right there. You know, the man is like, I mean, when it comes to being prolific, he's definitely, and I think a lot of the people like, you know, Fabio and Brian and a lot of people, Bailey, everyone has said like, you know, no one really touches him. You know what I mean? So his catalog is unbelievable. So many hits. In the genre.
Bro.
It's crazy. So who else? What else was I guess you could say, because you've done so much, what was a record that you did with somebody and you were just like, man, this is like a dream come true. Like it just resonates with you.
Oh, for just resonate with me? One of my most favorite tunes ever done was Step Tune with Random Movement, hands down.
Beautiful record. And you know what? I played the hell out of that one.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I played the hell out of that record. I'm so happy about that one. Yeah. Great record, man. Yeah.
Great record.
I was going to say, when I get together with you, I don't know if you have a little folder, but I'd love to get the track collection.
You got it, sir. You got it.
Okay. Yeah.
You got to know the password now. But I got you.
Oh, the password is Roti, right? Okay. You know what? Roti and Poutine podcast. We got to talk about it. How did that come about? How did you meet Omani and Valiant? And how did this thing form? Yo, you know, 2020, COVID was a very productive year for some. Like you mentioned with Brian, and me and Omani linked because of Bookem. We would ended up. Danny started bringing Omani out, and we would just be the two MCs. And I think people were there to see us in action and be like, "Oh my God, two of the best cats is on the same stage." It's never. And we would tearing that place apart, you know, on some back and forth shit. And me and him always kept in contact. COVID happened. We was throwing up something with Semper Fi. We did the car bars thing for America. I'm speeding through it real quick. And then in the midst of all that going on, Amani wanted to test the talking aspect of things. And he had him and Valiant down. And maybe I was a strong third, but it was like, yo, do I want to do this? I'm real. When people ask me sometimes, they're like, you want me to do this? Why you want me to do this? You know? And we weren't going anywhere. COVID wasn't letting anybody just be normal again. And we just started talking. First thing the Roti and Poutine was a Semper Fi interview with all of us in the room talking and chatting about whatever we're doing and what we're trying to do. And then all of a sudden it became one. And then it became two. And I mean, you know, it was like all of us and it became three. And then it was just the core of us that stood around and just started having like weekly, daily talks at one point. Just to be talking and just being on our podcast. And then we started having guest people come through. One of our first guests, if not our second guest, was Goldie. Holy smacks. We got Goldie. Goldie wants to hang out and be a fool and talk mad. I heard he started playing records for about 3 hours. Was that correct?
That's one of our most classic things. At the end of the year that year, we did a Christmas special with him and Bailey that we just wanted them to play records, and it became a sort of a sound clash. They were trying to figure out. We heard, honestly, we were little kids. We were supposed to go 2 hours. We went almost 4 hours, I believe. One of the best.
That's magical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that like when things happen like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what was your take? Like looking back on that, because I know you guys were saying, I was asking you the other day, I said, you know, the podcast is taking a little bit of a break. And I was just saying to you guys, just come back It doesn't matter, because I think what I want to help contribute to, and I think what you guys contributed to, is I feel like jungle and drum and bass doesn't have much industry. And I know a lot of people might get real upset about that, but I feel like there's not enough consistent industry. You know what? So I want to big up DJ Ron with London Something Podcast. I want to bring up Frost with the Frost Report.
Frost Report.
Yeah, and and anybody who's really contributing to getting people's voices out there, man, because everybody has a story. And the only person who's going to tell your story the correct way is the individual who lived it, So, I mean, listen, I understand how busy you guys are, and it's a heck of a commitment, and obviously people are not doing this for money,
right? We're doing this for health and love and reward,
and community as well.
Yeah, community. Sorry,
yeah. Well, definitely health and love, and yeah, for sure. Yeah. So is that it? Now that you said that, is that really what those podcasts meant to you during COVID?
I enjoyed, and I want to say we enjoyed that we were helping people get through their most mental moments. We were going through mental moments. People didn't know what to do with themselves. Twitch opened the doors as well for a lot of people to just use their platform for more than just video games.
Were you guys were you doing it via Twitch?
We were on Twitch all the time. We did it all on Twitch, actually. You know what I mean? We shot it. I think we shot it on Zoom and then did it and then created a room and put it on Twitch. Yeah,
I will ask you about that after, because that was something that I was thinking about.
Yes.
But I want to ask you a question, because we're coming down to about the last 10 minutes here. And it's a deep question. What is the best and worst thing about this drum and bass music industry?
I'll try to answer the worst, and it's really not me giving it a concrete answer. I'm worried about inclusion, and I'm worried about ceilings. And I don't want people to just think like every genre claims to never have a ceiling. Best way to say it. And I think sometimes, cats we base everything off the amen roll. And amen, and as significant as the amen roll is, everything isn't the amen roll. The amen roll is a pure, nobody's ever going to go against that. But you can see that there's other people trying to figure other ways of rehashing the breaks and making it more to something else, and it still be within the confines of DNB. I do think, at least here in the Western world, not here in Canada, but mostly in the States, people being more familiar with it and what it means, and not just see it as some kind of EDM, nonsense. Or I'm not trying to diss EDM, I'm just saying in the sense of what people think. Growing up with me, when you heard somebody say dance music, the first thing you thought about was people in Europe, people in London, dance. You don't know what this is, dance music. So it was like
it was separate. It was separate.
Yeah, separatist. And what you find out is that all the people who were in this originated look like us anyway. So this is our stuff too as well. Not the
deep rich history for sure.
But it should be shown that way we know. And I think that's a little historical thing right there about it all. So that's something we can fix.
Inclusion, for sure. Right. So big up EQ50. Right. Big up for we were talking about Black Junglist Alliance and everybody who because talking about race is really uncomfortable for people, but it needs to be said, because at times, like like a lot of the OGs, man, like we'll be standing in rooms and like we're the only people of color in the entire room. You know what I mean? So it's deep. We don't have to go into it there. But when you said ceiling, what do you mean about the ceiling of the music? Like you said, there's like every genre has a ceiling or something like that.
So how it's perceived on the outside, how it's perceived on the scale of what people see, they only see. Like if you go to a house vibe, a house place, you're hearing so many different styles of house music in general. You know what I mean? You're hearing all kinds of influences from African drums to maybe even a little bit of jungle thrown in somewhere, to maybe even a little bit of a jazz, or you know what I mean. There's, you know, in hip hop, which is still seen as one of the most universal styles of music, how we borrow from any place, anywhere. R.I.P. to Jay Dilla, who personified where that sound was going at the time, where a pen could drop on the floor and it'd be the funkiest snare you ever heard in your life. You know what I'm saying?
And his impact on Liquid is, I think that
immense.
It's people don't speak on it enough. Basically, a lot of the really great Liquid, the way that we flip all the soul samples and stuff, you contribute to the techniques to Dilla. Because sometimes when I'm flipping like soul samples, I'm just like, you know, you think about it. Like, you know, I mean, I studied Dilla and I watch all the documentaries and so on. So big up Dilla and his contribution to our music, because I don't think people think of it. They think, oh, he contributed to hip hop. But no, if you're a producer and you love music, you know, and you're influenced by soul and funk, and then now you're sampling those records and putting a drum and bass beat to it and using the similar techniques, we have to pay tribute to where it comes from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, also, I mean, not to give it to all hip hops, but like, you know, Preem was like the king of the chop sample. A lot of cats is doing the chop samples now. And from my side, I won't say it's in general, but I'm starting to hear a lot of Pete style stuff coming in, as far as, you know, I work with Mr. Joseph. I'm working with Mr. Winslow, who's been doing some amazing stuff, and I can't wait for y'all to hear down the line. And you can hear these different influences that are reminding me of records that I grew up to, that are like, yo, this is a great 360 right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the thing that I love about drum and bass is how close it is to jazz. It's electronic jazz, no other way to put it, hands down to arrangements, down to what happens here, down to when this goes to the climax and then brings you down, and then down to something else that happens that might be a little chaotic but beautiful. That's something that's so perfected from the legends, your Theloniouses, your Miles. I mean, it's mind blowing how that is with the style and the speed. You know, the whole matrix of it all. Everything's going, but it's like this, and then the bass line just goes, woo, 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 woo. And it's like, yo, it's the most beautifulest thing in so many ways. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why I'm happy to see the breaks come back in. I'm happy to see the jungle, because there was, like, back in the jungle days, there was jazz jungle, and they were putting out these compilations, and they were really, and there was jazz musicians playing live jungle and putting out records like that. And you had Talking Loud and Giles Peterson and, you know, all of Mark Mack's crew and Reinforce and all the guys who make Broken Beat now. They were working with these jazz musicians and really putting the soul and the jazz in there. And I mean, that's the one thing about drum and bass. I think sometimes we can get lost in the gloss and making it sonically perfect. And I think with the jazz and the soul and the funk and all that stuff, needs to have some funk and some dirt and some grit. And I think people are a little bit afraid of making their records not, you know, sonically heavy to hit in the club. Whereas, you know, sometimes I would prefer something, you know, so I could get those jazz elements, you know, like I don't mind a dusty break.
No.
You know, give me a dusty break, a Dusty Rhodes, a really soulful vocal, you know what I mean? And you could still have that well-produced so that you can hear it in a party and it can cut through. I mean, Caliber is a great example of that. Like his stuff, you know what I mean? Like, and so I think the music is always in this place sometimes where it's like battling itself sonically versus vibes. You know, some people will be like, oh, I can't use that break. That break is too dirty. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, sometimes we need to bring the dirt back, man, because it's like with boom bap, a lot of boom bap will just leave all the record scratch and that's the vibe. Right. So I personally like all the noise. I love all the grit. I'll put that stuff into my record. I don't even care. Man. Yeah, you know, so bro. I feel good about that. Man, I can't believe we're gonna have to do this again.
I know. Hey, we'll do a part 2 somewhere else, but I hope when people listen to this, they get the excitement from two people who love what they do and they are so genuine about what they do. You know, and I want to give a big up to everybody who's been supporting me this far, and there's a lot more to come. And you know your boy's on it. Yeah, I got a little bit. This is my new look, really, with this little peach gray. You know,
gotta embrace it, bro. Gotta embrace it. You know what I
I'm
mean?
Juan, you know what I mean? What I said in the rhyme, I said something like Juan, expect greatness. You know what I mean? So that's what we on right now, greatness. And I gotta thank Marcus for having me through, my brethren.
Yes.
This was real fun. I miss podcasting, so I'm gonna talk to the boys. Trust me. You know what I mean?
Definitely. You know what? And I feel like you guys inspired me to really, make the move into this, because when I did that, it was so much fun. And all I do is watch pods and documentaries. So, I got to big you up for that. And you know what? Hopefully we can community it up. I'll come on, we can interview people together. You know what I mean? Let's build this community, man. So I appreciate you so much. And thank you so much for doing this for me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Big love, y'all.
All right. We're going to have you back again because the story is still untold.
That's a lot to say, yo.
Yeah, man. Blessings.